All right, let's talk about high blood pressure. I know, you've probably heard about it a million times. But what if I told you there's more to the story? That it's not just some number you get at the doctor's office. Today, we're going to dig into some really cool science-backed ways to take control that go way beyond the same old advice. You ready? Let's dive in. So here's a question for you, and I want you to really think about this. What if there was a major risk to your health, just hiding in plain sight? They call high blood pressure the silent risk for a reason. You often don't feel a thing. That's what's so scary about it. So, is it possible this is happening to you or maybe someone you love right this very second? Okay, so just how big of a deal are we talking about here? Well, that number you see, 7.5 million, that's how many deaths worldwide are tied to hypertension every single year. Let that sink in for a moment. That's about 13% of all deaths globally. It's a huge, huge problem. And this is the important part, there's so much we can do about it. The power is really in our hands. All right, first things first. Before we jump into all the cool solutions, we've got to understand what we're actually up against, right? So what is high blood pressure? What's really going on inside your body? Let's break it down. Okay, don't let the medical terms scare you. This is actually super simple. Think of your arteries like a garden hose. Blood pressure, it's just the force of the blood, the water, pushing against the inside of that hose. That's it. And when you get your reading, you get two numbers, right? The top one, that's called systolic. That's the pressure when your heart is in mid-pump, when the water is blasting out. The bottom number, diastolic, that's the pressure when your heart is taking a quick break between beats. And this little gadget right here is how we measure it. You've probably seen one. A lot of people have them at home now, which is awesome for keeping an eye on things. Seriously, knowing your numbers, that's step one. You can't manage what you don't measure. So, you've got your numbers. What do they actually mean? Well, this chart from the National Institutes of Health makes it super clear. Look, if you're under 120/80, you're in the clear. That's the goal. Now, see that pre-hypertension category? Think of that as a yellow light. It's a heads up, a warning sign. But once you hit 140/90 or higher, that's when it's officially called hypertension. The most important thing is just knowing where you land on this chart because that's what empowers you to do something about it. Okay, enough about the problem. Let's get to the good stuff, the solutions. And honestly, one of the most powerful tools you have is right on the end of your fork. So let's talk about food. We're going to cover a big picture strategy and then a couple of rock star foods you need to know about. All right, the foundation for all of this is something called the DASH eating plan. DASH is just an acronym. It stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. And let me be clear, this is not some trendy new fad diet. This is the real deal, a super solid plan backed by tons of research from the National Institutes of Health. And you know what I love about the DASH plan? It's not about restriction. It's not this big list of don'ts. It's all about what you can and should eat. It's about filling your plate with all the good stuff, fruits, veggies, whole grains, basically loading up on foods that are naturally packed with things like potassium and magnesium, which are, you guessed it, absolutely crucial for keeping your blood pressure in a healthy range. But we can get even more granular. The DASH plan is the big picture, but science has also zoomed in on a few specific foods that punch way above their weight. There are a couple that are so interesting, we've got to talk about them. Okay, on one side we've got beetroot juice, and on the other, cocoa flavonols. Yeah, the stuff in chocolate. So beetroot is amazing because it's full of nitrates. Your body churns those into something called nitric oxide, which is like a chill-out signal for your blood vessels. It helps them relax and open up. Cocoa does something similar, but the way it works is honestly kind of brilliant. And this is the mind-blowing part. A study from the University of Surrey found that cocoa flavonols are like a smart compound. They only lower your blood pressure if it's high to begin with. How cool is that? This is a game changer because it means you don't have to worry about it dropping your pressure too low if it's already normal. It's like it knows exactly what to do. All right, food is huge, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. We got to talk about moving our bodies. So let's switch gears and look at the types of exercise that the science says really, truly matter. And here's the best news. You do not have to become a marathon runner overnight. The research is crystal clear on this. Just a simple, brisk 30-minute walk most days of the week. That can be powerful enough to make a real difference. For some people, that's literally all it takes to get things under control. But wait, there's more. What if I told you there's another super effective technique, and you can do it sitting down? It's called isometric resistance training, or IRT. All that means is tensing a muscle without actually moving. You know, like if you push your hands together really hard or push against a wall. Simple stuff. And one of the most well-researched ways to do this is with simple hand grip exercises. The way they do it in the studies is pretty straightforward. You use one of those little hand grip squeezer things, you squeeze it at a certain intensity, you hold it for a couple minutes, rest, and repeat. That's it. It sounds almost too easy, but the science shows it's incredibly effective. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. The science, the food, the movement. So let's pull it all together into a simple action plan, your personal toolkit. So here it is, your toolkit for healthy blood pressure. Number 1, know your numbers. You gotta know your starting point. 2, embrace the DASH plan. Make it the foundation of how you eat. 3, sprinkle in those power foods. Think beetroot juice or some high flavanol cocoa. 4, get moving. Start with a simple brisk walk. And 5, don't be afraid to try something new, like those easy hand grip exercises. Every single one of these is backed by solid science. Look, the goal here is not to get overwhelmed and try to do everything at once. No way. The goal is just to start. So looking at this list, what's one small thing you could do tomorrow? Just one. Maybe it's grabbing a handful of berries instead of a cookie. Maybe it's a 10-minute walk on your lunch break. Whatever it is, that first tiny step, that's everything.
All right, quick reset. Blink twice, stretch your shoulders, and don't worry, your health lesson isn't over yet. We're switching gears now, but this next topic is just as important for your body. And if you care about staying healthy the smart way, make sure you're subscribed.
If you've ever found yourself wondering, can I manage my cholesterol without a prescription? Well, you are definitely not alone. You know, statins are one of the most prescribed drugs on the planet. But the search for natural alternatives, it's just as intense. Today, we're going to cut right through all of the marketing hype and look directly at the science to see what actually works. So let's get into it. So this is really the big question, isn't it? You've seen the products on grocery store shelves, the supplements online making all these bold claims. But what does the evidence really, truly say? Can some of these foods or extracts actually move the needle on your cholesterol numbers in a way that matters? That's exactly what we're here to figure out. Okay, we're going to start with the heavy hitters. I'm talking about the 2 alternatives that have the strongest, most consistent scientific proof behind them for actually lowering cholesterol. And they work through these 2 really distinct and honestly pretty clever mechanisms that scientists call binding and blocking. Now, before we dive any deeper, just a super quick refresher so we're all on the same page. When we talk about lowering cholesterol, we're really focused on LDL. That's the bad kind that can build up and clog arteries. HDL is the good kind that helps sweep it all away. So the goal of the game is to get that LDL number down. Simple as that. All right, our first evidence-backed all-star is something you have definitely seen in the supermarket: plant sterols and stanols. These are compounds that are naturally found in things like fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains. But you'll often see them concentrated and added to fortified foods, like certain margarines and yogurts, to get you that therapeutic dose. So how do these things actually work? It's a surprisingly simple and, elegant blocking mechanism. You can kind of see it here. Plant sterols look a whole lot like cholesterol on a molecular level. And because they're so similar when they're down in your gut, they basically play musical chairs for all the absorption spots. They physically block some of the real cholesterol from ever getting into your bloodstream. Less cholesterol absorbed means lower LDL levels. It's that direct. And listen, the effect is not small. A huge 2014 review that looked at 124 different studies found that getting up to about 3.3 grams of these plant compounds a day, which is an amount you can get from those fortified foods, could lower your bad LDL cholesterol by a very significant 6 to 12%. Okay, let's move on to our second gold standard alternative. And this is one you might have actually had for breakfast this morning. We are talking about oat beta-glucan. Now, this isn't just any old fiber. It's a very specific type of soluble fiber that you find in high amounts in oats and barley. So what's really cool is how this works. The mechanism is totally different from plant sterols. Beta-glucan uses a binding method. It dissolves in your gut and forms this thick gel. This gel then literally traps something called bile acids, which your liver makes using, you guessed it, cholesterol. Because they're trapped, these bile acids get removed from the body instead of being reabsorbed. So what does your liver have to do? It's forced to pull more LDL cholesterol out of your bloodstream to make new bile acids. It's a brilliant, natural way your body can be prompted to clean house. And just how effective is this? Well, check this out. One notable Italian clinical trial saw that people who consumed a specific oat fiber product had their LDL cholesterol drop by an average of 15.1%. That is a seriously impressive number coming from just a food component. Okay, so we've covered the two heavy hitters, the ones with the strongest evidence. Now we're gonna wade into some murkier waters. This next section is all about those popular supplements you've definitely heard of, but where the science is either mixed, a bit controversial, or comes with some really important warnings. First up, garlic. For centuries, it's been hailed as a cure-all for everything. And when it comes to heart health, the claims usually point to one key active compound, allicin. This is the stuff that gives raw garlic that super pungent smell and taste. But does it actually lower cholesterol? Well, this is where it starts to get tricky. The research is all over the place, and it really seems like the type of garlic you use matters. Some small studies, like one out of Iran, found that eating raw garlic every day did lead to a drop in LDL. But other research has focused on aged garlic extract, where the chemical makeup, including that allicin, gets transformed into totally different compounds. And while those have great antioxidant properties, the direct evidence for consistently lowering cholesterol, well, it's just not as strong as it is for our friends oats or sterols. Now, for a really interesting one, red yeast rice. This supplement has a powerful reputation for lowering cholesterol, and there is a very, very clear reason why. It naturally contains a compound called monocolin K, which, get this, is chemically identical to the active ingredient in the prescription statin drug lovastatin. So yeah, the crucial point is, it works. It can absolutely lower LDL. But, and this is a huge but, here's the problem. Because it's sold as a supplement, it's not regulated like a pharmaceutical drug. The amount of that active ingredient, monocolin K, can be wildly different from batch to batch and from brand to brand. You really have no idea what dose you're getting, and the long-term safety of these unregulated products just hasn't been established. So yeah, it's effective, but it comes with a major, major catch. All right, finally, let's talk about fish oil and omega-3s. These are easily some of the most popular supplements for heart health out there, but there is a massive misunderstanding about what they actually do for your cholesterol profile. And here it is, the key distinction. According to major health organizations like the British Heart Foundation, the main benefit of omega-3s is lowering triglycerides. That's a different type of fat in your blood that's also linked to heart disease. What they don't do is significantly lower your LDL or bad cholesterol. In fact, some studies show that at very high doses, they might even slightly increase LDL. So while they're great for overall heart health, they are not a direct tool for lowering your LDL. So we've seen that some natural compounds can, in fact, lower your LDL number. But this brings us to what I think is the most important part of this whole conversation. We have to ask a much bigger question. Is just changing a number on a lab report, is that really the ultimate goal? And this quote right here from the British Heart Foundation, this is the absolute key takeaway of everything we've talked about. I'm just going to read it directly. While plant sterols and stanols may lower your cholesterol, there have been no clinical trials that show they lower the risk of heart attack and stroke. Let that sink in. This is a critical piece of the puzzle. And that right there, that is the fundamental difference. Look, lowering a biomarker, like your LDL number, that's one thing. But proving that lowering that number actually leads to fewer clinical events, fewer heart attacks, fewer strokes, that is the gold standard. Statins have cleared that incredibly high bar in decades of massive clinical trials. These natural alternatives, even the ones that are effective at lowering the number, just haven't. Okay, so with all this evidence laid out, what's the smartest way to think about all of this? What is the informed, sensible path forward for your heart health? So let's just bring it all together. First, we know there's clear evidence that plant sterols and oat beta-glucan can genuinely help lower your LDL cholesterol numbers. Second, for popular supplements like garlic or red yeast rice, the science is either murky or frankly comes with some big safety concerns about regulation. But the most crucial takeaway is this. Lowering a number on a lab report is not the same thing as having proof that you're lowering your actual risk of a heart attack or a stroke. And that means we should see these foods as powerful additions to a heart-healthy lifestyle, but not as a replacement for proven life-saving medicine. Which really leaves us with this final question. Instead of thinking of it as a battle, natural versus medicine, maybe the better question to ask is this: how can incorporating these evidence-backed foods into your diet best support a comprehensive, medically guided plan for your long-term heart health? It's about using all the tools in the toolbox intelligently and safely.
All right, quick reset. Blink twice, stretch your shoulders, and don't worry, your health lesson isn't over yet. We're switching gears now, but this next topic is just as important for your body. And if you care about staying healthy the smart way, make sure you're subscribed.
You know, we're always told that stress is the enemy, something we need to avoid, right? But what if I told you that a certain kind of stress, one found in nature, actually holds the key to making us healthier? Today, we're going to uncover this amazing connection between how plants deal with tough situations and how we can seriously boost our own blood flow. So get ready to rethink everything you thought you knew about stress. Let's dive in. I know, it sounds a little like science fiction, but just stick with me on this. We're about to explore how the very stuff that makes a pepper spicy can act like a mini workout for your blood vessels. Seriously, it can create some of the same benefits, and you don't even have to lace up your running shoes. It's a pretty powerful idea, and it all starts with a problem a lot of us face. You know that feeling, just kind of sluggish, maybe your hands and feet are always cold, or even more serious things like swelling in your legs? Well, a lot of the time, that comes down to poor vascular function. Our blood just isn't getting around as well as it should be. And what if the clue to fixing this wasn't at the pharmacy, but hiding in a simple pepper patch? Okay, so to really get this, we've got to look at how plants defend themselves. Just like us, plants react to their environment. And when things get tough for them, they don't just give up. Oh no, they get stronger. They actually create these powerful biochemical weapons to survive. So check this out. Researchers set up this really cool experiment. They took one group of peppers and grew them in perfect conditions. You know, nutrient-rich soil, everything they could ever want. Basically, a pepper paradise. But then, they grew a second group in what the study called adverse conditions. Think sandy, nutrient-poor soil with not a lot of water. It was a really stressful and challenging place for these plants to grow. So the researchers had these two very different groups of peppers. First, you have the ones that had it easy, grown in those perfect conditions. Then you have the exact same type of pepper, but grown under a whole lot of stress. The big question was, what was different on the inside? Well, the answer was pretty incredible. And the results were just wild. The peppers that grew up in that stressful environment produced way higher concentrations of these pungent compounds called capsaicinoids. It's like, in their fight to survive, the plants supercharge themselves with the very thing that makes a chili pepper hot, and as it turns out, incredibly good for you. So what in the world are capsaicinoids? Well, they're the active compounds that give peppers their signature kick, their heat. But they do so much more than just make your mouth burn. They are literally the plant's secret weapon, and it's a weapon that we can borrow for ourselves. And this is where it all connects. The study found that extracts from these stressed-out peppers actually helped improve what's called vascular endothelial function. That's a fancy way of saying they improved the health of the delicate lining of our blood vessels. And how did they do it? By boosting the production of nitric oxide. Think of nitric oxide as a natural relaxant for your blood vessels. It tells them to chill out and widen, letting blood flow more freely. This is absolutely huge, because better blood flow affects everything from your brain to your heart. Okay, so we've got this incredible biochemical boost from the peppers. That's awesome. But that's only half of the equation. See, having better quality blood is one thing, but you still need a really good system to pump it around your body. And it turns out we all have this incredibly powerful, and often neglected, pump built right into our legs. I want you to meet your second heart. It's not a joke. Every time you walk or move, the muscles in your lower leg, especially your calf, literally squeeze the veins there and push blood all the way back up to your actual heart. They're fighting against gravity with every single step you take. It is a vital, totally underappreciated mechanical pump. And the real workhorse of this whole system is a muscle you may have never heard of, called the soleus. What makes it so special is that it's made of what are called slow twitch fibers. All that means is that it's incredibly resistant to fatigue. It's the main muscle that does the pumping when you're just standing or walking around. It's literally designed to just keep going and going. But what happens when this second heart of ours gets weak, maybe from sitting around too much? Well, the blood starts to pool in our lower legs. This condition is known as chronic venous insufficiency, and it's what causes that swelling, that discomfort, that overall feeling of heaviness and fatigue. The pump just isn't doing its job anymore. So let's put the pieces together. On one hand, we've got this incredible biochemical boost from stressed peppers that improves our blood itself, and on the other hand, we have this powerful mechanical pump in our legs that moves that blood. The real magic, the real breakthrough, happens when we bring these two ideas together. I want you to think about it like this. You have a powerful engine. That's your calf muscle pump. So what happens when you give that engine higher quality, more efficient fuel? And in this case, that fuel is nutrient-rich, free-flowing blood. You get synergy. You create this powerful 1-2 punch for your entire circulatory system. The capsaicinoids from the peppers improve the quality and flow of your blood on a biochemical level, while strengthening your calf muscles improves the efficiency of the mechanical pump that's moving it all around. It's just a beautiful meeting of botany and human physiology. Look, this is more than just a cool science lesson. The real power here is putting this knowledge into action. So let's turn this amazing insight into a dead simple 2-minute daily protocol that can help supercharge your circulation. Here it is. It's just 2 steps. Step 1 is the biochemical boost. Just add a little pinch of a capsaicin-rich spice like cayenne pepper to one of your meals each day. That's it. Step 2, activate the mechanical pump. Do some simple calf raises, let's call them soleus push-ups, for just a minute or 2 every day. That's the whole thing. It's such a simple investment in your long-term health, but one that can pay off every single day. So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? I think it's that stress isn't always the bad guy. Whether it's in a pepper plant fighting to survive, or in our own muscles being challenged by a little exercise, intelligent stress creates resilience and strength. So, I'll leave you with this question. Where else in your life can you find strength that's hiding in stress?
Thank you for being here with me today. Remember, small choices create big changes. Keep nourishing your health with love and consistency. See you in the next Vital Elixir video.